In Germany, there are an increasing number of biker gangs being set up by women.
The Hells Angels are a world of men, but to think women hold no power here would be a mistake. They've been partners in crime, keepers of secrets, and sometimes the reason everything falls apart. While no woman can wear the patch or claim membership, many have stood bravely behind the men who do, loyal, but just as dangerous if disrespected. From smuggling narcotics across borders to orchestrating betrayals behind closed doors, these are the 12 most feared women ever connected to the Hells Angels. Cheryl Christie. She was the woman accused of flooding schools with stolen prescription drugs. As the wife of Hells Angels leader George Christie, Cheryl Ann O'Neill seemed like the club's polished face, articulate, poised, and the picture of loyalty. Her story began in Southern California, where she fell for Christie and stood by his side as he rose to become one of the most visible Hells Angels in the world. But power behind the scenes rarely stays clean for long. In 2001, everything changed. That image shattered. Cheryl was named in a federal indictment as a key player in a racketeering scheme. Prescription drugs stolen from a military base were funneled into local communities and sold to high school students. From first lady to felon, she was arrested, jailed, and ultimately took a plea deal. What made her truly feared wasn't just the crime. It was the truth she exposed. Even the cleanest faces in the club weren't clean at all, and respectability could be a mask for corruption. It was a reminder that in the outlaw world, image is as dangerous as any weapon. While Cheryl's downfall played out in the public eye, the next woman didn't fold. She didn't snitch. Donna Boon Macaulay. She helped move crystal meth from California across the country, keeping the wheels of a coast-to-coast drug ring turning. Donna Boon Macaulay helped move crystal meth all the way from California across the country. She kept the wheels turning in a big coast-to-coast drug ring. To most people, Donna looked like any small-town mom. But behind that calm life, she was deeply involved in one of the most dangerous outlaw networks in the country. She was a key player herself. For almost 10 years, she worked inside the club, helping them run meth from the West Coast to the East. Donna wasn't just the partner of James Maniac Macaulay Jr., a top member of the Rochester Hells Angels chapter. When the FBI finally acted, Donna wasn't just caught in the sweep, she was one of the main targets. During the takedown of the Rochester chapter, she was charged along with her husband, not as a bystander, but as a leader in the drug trade. She stood by her man. She didn't break. And in a world where silence means survival, that earned her something rare: fear and respect. She's still behind bars, but her name still carries weight in outlaw circles as a woman who never broke the code. But the next woman, she didn't follow those rules. She went inside their world and brought it all crashing down. Jenna Maguire. She wasn't a biker's girl. She was a federal agent, deep undercover. Nothing about her life in the club was real. To the Mesa, Arizona chapter of the Hells Angels, she was Jenna Maguire, the quiet, loyal old lady of a patched member. In truth, her name, her history, and her relationship were fabricated to penetrate one of the most dangerous outlaw motorcycle clubs in America. Jenna was part of Operation Black Biscuit, a 2-year investigation aimed at the Hells Angels' leadership. Posing as the girlfriend of fellow undercover agent Jay Dobbins, she lived full-time inside their world, where the wrong word could get her killed. In that environment, women were expected to walk behind their men, stay silent, and obey without question. Breaking that code could mean disappearance, permanent. She played her role without a slip, earning the trust of men who trusted no one. Even seasoned members never suspected she was recording their conversations for federal prosecutors. Her intelligence supported indictments for racketeering, drug trafficking, and murder. She documented discussions about real killings, including one where a woman was murdered simply for talking back. By the time the operation ended, Jenna had shown that the Hells Angels could be deceived from the inside. Her cover was dismantled, her identity erased, and her work locked in case files. But long before an agent could walk into their clubhouse, another woman was shaping the Hells Angels, not through law enforcement, but through blood ties. Sharon Groka. She didn't pull the trigger or run drugs, but she helped build the outlaw empire that would shake the world. Before the Hells Angels became a global symbol of rebellion and fear, there was Sharon Groka, the first wife of Sonny Barger and the woman who stood at the club's foundation. When Barger took control of the Oakland chapter, transforming it from a local crew into the Angels' most powerful stronghold, Sharon was right beside him. She wasn't just a bystander. She helped define what an old lady was supposed to be: loyal, unshakable, and respected. Sharon sat in on meetings, watched the fights, and weathered the violence that came with the birth of a movement. She never ran drugs, she never dealt in blood, but her influence shaped the way power moved inside the club. In a time when women were mostly silenced, Sharon's voice was heard, not out of fear, but out of earned respect. She became the blueprint, and while she may not be remembered for a single crime, within the Angels' inner circles, Sharon Groka remains a name spoken with reverence, the first queen of the outlaw kingdom. Sharon helped build the world the Angels ruled, but the next woman didn't just stand beside the club, she gave everything to it, including her freedom. Aindam Silvana P. She called the Hells Angels dirty, stinking shit farmers, but prosecutors called her something else: the First Lady of the Harlem chapter. Silvana P. wasn't raised around bikes, colors, or clubhouses. She was a mother from New York City, living far from the outlaw world. But that changed the moment she got involved with Leander D., president of the Harlem Hells Angels. When Leander was sent to prison, Silvana didn't walk away. She stayed, and according to law enforcement, she did far more than sending love letters. She became his connection to the outside world, passing messages, enabling drug deals, and helping the chapter operate from inside a cell. Prosecutors said she was a key figure in keeping Harlem's chapter active, carrying out violent orders and keeping criminal operations alive. Wiretaps even caught her speaking against the club, but her actions told a different story. She was arrested, tried, and convicted. Silvana claimed she was a manipulated girlfriend, just a woman caught in the crossfire. But to many, she was something far more dangerous. A woman who blurred the line between loyalty and complicity, and didn't flinch. She's now behind bars, a cautionary tale of what happens when love, power, and crime collide. But not every woman stood beside the club. The next one defied it, and for that, she paid in blood. Margot Compton. Truth was her only weapon, and it got her and her daughters killed. Margot Compton wasn't a Hells Angel. She didn't deal drugs, didn't pull triggers. Her crime was speaking up. As the ex-girlfriend of a California Hells Angel, she'd seen the inside of the club. When she walked away, she did what almost no one dared. She agreed to testify in a federal case linking the Angels to prostitution and trafficking. She was ready to name powerful names. For the Hells Angels, that wasn't just betrayal. It was war on their code of silence. Witness protection couldn't save her. In August 1977, just weeks before her court date, 2 men stormed her Forestville, Oregon home. Margot, her boyfriend, and her 7-year-old twin daughters, Sylvia and Sandra, were executed. Charles Chuck Diaz, a San Francisco Hells Angel, was convicted. But many believe he didn't make the call. He just pulled the trigger. The real order came from higher up, a warning to anyone thinking of breaking the silence. Margot never built a criminal empire, but her murder became a message. She defied the club and paid the price. The next woman didn't fight the system. She fed it and used it to rise. Satima Katarina C. Katarina C didn't look like she belonged in an outlaw motorcycle club. No tattoos, no Harley, but in the German underworld, her name carried weight. Tied to the Hells Angels charter in Hanover, one of the most feared and violent chapters in Europe, Katarina wasn't a bystander, and she wasn't anyone's arm candy. Prosecutors called her the Brains, a woman with no patch, but deep access to the club's criminal machinery. She worked in the shadows, mapping drug routes, moving illicit profits, and coordinating cross-border operations. In 2019, German authorities launched one of the biggest biker crime crackdowns in the country's history. Dozens of angels were arrested for attempted murder, drug trafficking, and weapons charges. Katarina C was among them, not as an accessory, but as a strategic figure. The court didn't treat her as a girlfriend caught in the mix. She was charged as a co-conspirator in a criminal enterprise. What made her feared wasn't muscle. It was precision. Katarina rose high in the ranks without ever wearing a patch. But if power made Katarina untouchable, love made the next woman a target. Sexende Habiba Kajan. Police stormed her quiet Ontario home with guns drawn and left with a loaded gun, stacks of evidence, and a direct link to one of Canada's most powerful Hells Angels. In 2021, the suburban house in London, Ontario, turned out to be more than it seemed. A full-force raid, police, firefighters, paramedics, hit the home of Habiba Kajan, uncovering a tampered firearm and ties to a sprawling, illegal gambling empire. Habiba wasn't just living with a biker. She was the longtime partner of Robert Barletta, the former president of the London Hells Angels and one of the club's most politically connected leaders. Nicknamed the Teflon Biker, Barletta had survived case after case, until now. Habiba was hit with 10 serious charges: illegal firearm possession, running a gambling operation, and instructing organized crime. Her home became known as a Hells Angels hub, with neighbors spotting patched members coming and going. Authorities called it one of Canada's largest underground sports betting investigations, but in a twist that shocked many. Most of the charges, including hers, were quietly dropped within 2.5 years. She didn't need to wear a patch or pull a trigger. Her weapon was proximity to power, and in the outlaw world, that can be more dangerous than violence itself. She stood beside a king and stayed standing long after the dust settled. Her name still whispered in law enforcement circles as a woman who knew far more than she ever said. For some, that silence meant loyalty. For others, it meant she was untouchable. But the next woman wasn't just close to power. She moved product, built labs, and ran operations one jet ski at a time. Anointed Lafy Owen. Lafy Owen was the wife of Kenneth J. Owen, a high-ranking Hells Angels member serving 41 years in federal prison for meth trafficking. Her name was tied to the same outlaw world of guns, drugs, and stolen property. In the 1990s, police raided their 42-acre property in Contra Costa County, California. What they found read like an outlaw arsenal: military-grade firearms, machine guns, silencers, semi-automatics, alongside 13 stolen vehicles and evidence of a meth lab. There were jet skis, a forklift, and a Harley Davidson in the mix. The bust was part of a massive joint investigation involving state and federal agencies, from the California Bureau of Narcotic Enforcement to the Highway Patrol. Lafy was charged with possession of stolen property and intent to manufacture meth. It wasn't her first time in a courtroom. Her criminal record stretched back to 1969, with convictions for burglary, armed robbery, drug possession, and illegal weapons, putting her reputation on par with some patched members. She wasn't always in the spotlight, but Lafy Owen lived deep inside the outlaw world. Her long rap sheet and role in one of the Angels' biggest drug cases cemented her place in biker history. Those who knew her say she played the long game, keeping her head down, staying useful, and surviving where others didn't. But in this life, not all threats roar. Some move in silence, like a serpent. Sandy, the Serpent. Sullivan. They called her the Serpent, not for what she did with her hands, but for what she knew and what she never said. Sandy Sullivan didn't come up through biker bars or backroom deals. She started in courtrooms, working as a defense investigator on the legal side of the law. But somewhere along the way, she crossed over. And once she stepped into the outlaw world, she never came back. By the early 2000s, Sandy was a trusted associate to Hell's Angels chapters across the Southwest. She was a quiet fixer, slipping through legal loopholes, passing coded messages, smoothing out deals that never hit the headlines. She wasn't patched in. She wasn't property. She was a player, and she answered to no one. Her nickname came from her style, the Serpent. She could strike a deal, stay ice cold under pressure, and slide out of situations most people wouldn't survive. Rumors tied her to a weapons trafficking cover-up in Arizona. Whispers claimed she was the voice on the phone for members behind bars, sending orders across state lines without leaving fingerprints. Sandy didn't lead with muscle, she led with silence. And in a world built on control, that made her dangerous. She was never arrested, never convicted, and today, she's gone. Some say she disappeared when a federal investigation closed in. Others think she cut a deal and vanished for good. But the mystery is the point, because when you can't be found, you can't be stopped. While Sandy struck from the shadows, the next woman made her mark out in the open. Fast, reckless, and impossible to outrun. Brenda Breakneck Brooks. If loyalty had a price, Brenda Brooks paid it in full, in blood, time, and silence. Nicknamed Breakneck for the speed she could turn calm into chaos, Brenda wasn't anyone's old lady. She was a street enforcer in everything but patch, the one you called when something needed to be handled fast, quiet, and without questions. She made her name in the Pacific Northwest chapters, romantically linked to a known enforcer. But her danger didn't come from who she was with. It came from what she was willing to do, work that even some patched members avoided. Biker gossip claims she once broke a rival's collarbone in a bar fight, not with a bat, but with a pool cue. Not long after, she was reportedly spotted moving weapons between Oregon and Idaho clubhouses in a stolen box truck registered under a fake name. What made her feared wasn't just aggression, it was unpredictability. One week, she was front and center at a biker charity run. Next, she was allegedly involved in a revenge hit on a rogue prospect who broke club code. Though never convicted, Brenda has been named in at least 2 sealed federal investigations, including a trafficking case tied to a meth operation on tribal land. Law enforcement believes she knows the kind of things that could bring down key players, but no one has ever gotten her to talk. Brenda Breakneck Brooks isn't a myth. She's a warning. A woman who walks outside the club's center but casts a shadow long enough to chill even those on the inside. If Brenda was a storm on wheels, Daisy, Deathwish Donovan was the lightning strike, sudden, brutal, and without warning. Daisy, Deathwish, Donovan. Daisy Donovan didn't earn the nickname Deathwish for recklessness. She earned it because she didn't flinch. She stared danger down, smiled, and often pulled the trigger first. Linked early on to the Hells Angels Nevada chapter, Daisy became known for her sharp mind, cold nerve, and obsession with speed, on the road and in the game of survival. Her reputation exploded after an infamous casino brawl in Reno, where she was allegedly the only woman in a violent clash between rival clubs. Witnesses say she walked away with blood on her boots and not a mark on her. From there, Daisy became a ghost in the outlaw network, hauling unmarked cargo across desert highways, forging documents, and quietly handling cleanup when the heat got too close. Rumors tie her to missing informants in more than one state. No charges ever stuck. What made Daisy dangerous wasn't rage. It was composure. In a world ruled by ego and temper, she was quiet, calculated, and unreadable. These days, such sightings are rare. Some say she's off-grid in the Arizona desert. But for those who know her story, Daisy Deathwish Donovan is more than a memory. She's the woman who did the things the club never admitted to and never once got caught. They stood beside the club, fought for it, killed for it, and in some cases, died for it. But loyalty only goes one way in the outlaw world. What happens when that loyalty runs out? When you walk away from the patch, or worse, turn your back on it? Click on the next video to find out what happens when you try to leave.